And welcome back to the booth here at the Magic World Championships. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth here with Paul Chion, and we've got William Huey Jensen coming up against Javier Dominguez. And I was just taking a look at some of the info that we got from them a few days ago, and kind of interesting stuff happening. First things first, of course, William Huey Jensen, you know, he's been playing forever since he was in 7th grade. That was in 1995. A couple years later, 3 years later, he played in his first pro tour. Let's take a look at Huey here, the man who needs no introduction at this point, as he missed the Hall of Fame by 1 vote, decided to start playing a little bit more, won everything in sight, and boom, got himself into the
Turns
Hall
out he
of
still
Fame.
got it.
He still got it, and he really has one of the highest ceilings of any of the players in the room, and that's saying something in this room. Our other competitor here is Javier Dominguez. Take a look at Javier from Spain. He's 30 years old, and you can see he is the all-time pro points leader in Spain, something that he's got to be proud of for sure. Interesting stuff here. We were taking a look at the deck list here, Paul, you and I, and Javier specifically said about Ixalan draft that he's not comfortable playing blue in this draft format. That's kind of not where he wants to be. Well, that's where he ended up. He's playing blue-black.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's, you know, you have your preferences when you draft formats, but you also, you know, these are world-class players. They're going to draft whatever is open. And Javier Dominguez was the player that was shipped all the blue cards by Martin Yuza. So, you know, when you see a 7th pick Water Trap Weaver, you're like, all right, fine. I guess I'll play blue.
Even if it's perhaps not your first choice. On the other side of the table, Jensen, as we saw earlier here, is playing red-white, and it's a pretty aggressive deck at that.
Yeah. Ooh, and one of the
that's a Fell Flagship.
One of the cards you want, absolutely, in your blue-black pirate deck, the Fell Flagship.
Now, he has not managed to lead into it with anything. It's just sitting there on its own. It does have a crew cost of 3, but as you can see, it actually bumps your pirates power up by 1. So it's a little deceptive, because even a 2-powered pirate can then crew it.
Right, Javier can play a 2-power pirate here and attack, but William Jensen actually has the foil here in the 4-2, the Frenzied Raptor.
Yeah, Frenzied Raptor's a fine answer there. He also has Nest Robber. Getting in.
Ooh, those are the scoundrels, right?
Wanted Scoundrels, that's right. Oh,
wow.
Bounty Captain as well. So a really great pair of 2s here for Javier Dominguez.
And keep in mind, he got past both of those cards. That Fathom Fleet Captain was in the, I believe, in the 3rd pack, and the Wanted Scoundrels were, I think it was a card that Martin was considering taking, but I believe he took a red card. And wow, he's actually opting to attack with the flagship here, saying, you know what, I value my creatures, and I know you're an aggressive deck, Huey. Do you actually want to make this trade?
And, you know, but given the pause that Huey's taking here, looks like that might have been a good choice by Javier. Because, you know, if Huey just goes, take it, you know, you're like, okay, well, we know that he wants to keep that Raptor if he just goes block you.
But he starts to discard a card, which is still, which is also big cost.
That's right.
Huey opting to just try to go for a race here.
He is. He's going to discard Otepec Huntmaster, a card that has kind of already expired as far as how good it's going to be for Huey anyway. And this does clear the way for a mighty attack. He's attacking for 6 damage here.
Wow, and he's attacking with the Nest Robber into the Wanted Scoundrels. Representing Sure Strike. That is the combat trick that would be the probably the worst card that for Javier.
Yeah, for Javier to see.
A Vampire Zeal would just be a trade, but maybe he doesn't want to give him the treasure there as well.
By the way, that's counting happening. He's not playing an imaginary piano.
Yeah, really close here.
Yeah. You know, Javier wants to start attacking with the Fathom Fleet Captain, activating that ability and spitting out 2/2 Menace Pirates. That is the way that he can generate a lot of advantage over Jensen. But of course, by turning his creature sideways and spending some mana, could be taking some valuable time away.
Yeah, Territorial Hammerskull, just an absolute beating in the format. It just keeps moving up and up in kind of my rankings in terms of the card evaluation. I think when the set first came out, I was just like, yeah, Pious Intervention, that's probably the best white common. And I think it's actually the Hammerskull. And I don't think it's actually particularly close. This card has just been fantastic. And
Water Trap Weaver now for Javier Dominguez is going to lock down the card that you were just talking about, the Territorial Hammerskull, and keep it on lock for the next turn cycle.
How much?
Javier has to attack with the Fathom Fleet Captain. You just think that that's got to be the best use of his 2 mana. The question is, do the Scoundrels want to come in too?
Yeah, I think you do. You're going to have access to a 3/2 Pirate here along with a Water Trap Weaver, and he did lock down the Territorial Hammerskull. So he has like reasonably safe blocks. One thing I'd like to note is that the Territorial Hammerskull, while it is amazing, it's actually pretty bad against vehicles. Because if you do try to tap down a creature, you can crew a vehicle, and many of the vehicles in the set can basically just block the Territorial Hammerskull.
Yeah, the Hammerskull is interesting in that it encourages your opponent to race, and it's just okay in a race, right? If it never taps anything down, you paid 3 mana for a 2/3, which it isn't really what you want in an aggressive deck, but it also sort of forces your opponent to play that game.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of acts as a pseudo removal spell when you are the aggressor, right? Because if you are drafting the low curve aggro deck, you are likely favored in racing situations.
And this is a big turning point here. Looks like it's in Javier Dominguez's favor because Jensen just went land go.
Right.
And you might have heard it over the air. Javier goes, go? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, William did pass with 5 mana up, so there's a lot of different cards you could have. Unfriendly Fire, for example, is a card that I would be expecting William to hold here, or some combination of combat tricks.
Let's take a look.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey, combat tricks and Unfriendly Fire.
Right.
A good read there from Paul Chion. Suncrown Hunters, also a follow-up play possible for Jensen.
Yeah.
Though, let's take a look at Javier's hand, and it's Yayo's 2 copies of Mark of the Vampire here. He can even protect his creature down the line with Siren Storm Tamer.
Yeah, but I think the players have access to deck lists, so he is mindful. Even if he didn't have access to deck lists, Huey did pass with 5 mana up. So
is he going for it?
I'm not. Yeah, Mark of the Vampire.
This is risky business.
I would probably look to put this on my worst creature,
which would be the Weaver at this point.
Right. Interesting. Wow.
He is
you
going
are setting yourself
big.
up.
Oh, boy, that is a blowout. Huey Jensen gets to use Unfriendly Fire to kill the Scoundrels and give himself a couple of treasure.
Now he gets 2 treasures, and he can use Vampire Zeal mid-combat to save one of his creatures if he opts to block.
Oh, that did not work out well for Dominguez at all. I guess he's still thinking.
Does he want to crew here?
Crew in response. Trigger, he says, right, get my treasure.
All right, and he doesn't have mana to make a pirate here either. Yeah, that was interesting. I was actually looking, I was thinking maybe Huey could have that card, the Unfriendly Fire. I was thinking about maybe playing the Siren Storm Tamer so you can safely resolve the mark on the following turn, attack with your captain, make a 2/2 menace token, and if the captain trades with the 2/1, you still got 2 tokens out of the deal. That's a really good, that's a lot of edge there.
That's a fine edge, yeah, and as well, also the Storm Tamer happens to be a pirate and is actually a 2/1 flyer, which is a reasonable scenario here in a relatively close race. But instead, Javier went for the home run play.
Yeah.
And, well, he struck out on that one. Still not in a bad position.
Right, right. And you know, his thought process could also be, okay, worst case scenario, Huey has the removal spell. Well, I got the second Mark of the Vampire, and I know next turn that's going to resolve safely. But I guess he could have still just protected that because he drew the Siren Storm Tamer. So.
And after all was said and done, he decides to only an attack with the Water Trap Weaver is the appropriate attack. That's going to knock Jensen down to 9.
Yeah, and the Territorial Hammerskull, he's now untapping. This is... Huey now has access to 7 mana, which is... I mean, the treasure... Those treasures were super relevant because now he can actually play his 6 mana dinosaur along with also just keeping up Vampire Zeal.
Yeah, Suncrown Hunters can come down this turn and still play the Vampire Zeal.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really, really big. Wow.
2 cards left in hand for both players. They both have a 1-drop and one of their more powerful late-game spells.
And as I mentioned before, that Fell Flagship doing a pretty good job of kind of holding the fort against the Territorial Hammerskull, but Huey also does have that Vampire Zeal in hand.
Also, I spoke a little too soon. Excuse me there, Paul. Jensen does actually have 3 cards in hand now after his draw step. Don't know what that last one is as of yet. comes combat from Jensen. He's going to attack
Block. Yep.
with 2 dinosaurs here. Tap down a pirate, and Javier says, "May I block?" Jensen says, "Absolutely." You did see, by the way, that situation that you outlined earlier, Paul, just happened, where Jensen said, "I want to tap your pirate," and Javier said, "Well, I'll just go ahead and fire up the Felt flagship here."
Did Javier maybe not? Is that maybe not Siren Storm Tabor? Why did he not play it last turn? He had access to a blue mana, right? Interesting.
It did leave himself up an island, and you would certainly want it on the battlefield. So it looks like maybe that's not the card that he had.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't a Siren Storm. Okay, that makes more sense, I guess. Yeah.
And so Jensen's going to leverage that Vampire Zeal.
It was a Storm Sculptor.
Ah.
Okay, so this all makes a lot more sense. All right.
Lots of storms happen on Ixalan Etcher.
Although still putting it on the 4/3 is high risk, high reward.
Yeah, that part wasn't different.
Yeah. So is it possible for Javier to even race this spot? Can he put a Mark of the Vampire and get in an attack?
Call.
Jensen's going to go ask a question. I got to say, you know, you can get a sense for it, but Javier, there's a lot of tension on his side of the table. You know, he keeps playing around with that pen. He keeps moving around his library, putting his hands in his head. You know, I think you can see that he's feeling some of the pressure of being in the feature here at the World Championship, playing a great player like Jensen.
There's a lot on the line here. And you know,
And he's got a 2-0 start already. I mean, that's fantastic. But look at the demeanor difference between the two. You know, you can just sort of get a sense for it.
Yeah.
Jensen says, "I've been here before."
Yeah. He's been around for a while. I mean, Javier Dominguez has been a Pro Tour mainstay. He has played on the Pro Tour a lot, but again, the World Championships, it's a slightly different game.
Feels different, yeah. All right, well, here's Mark of the Vampire number 2.
So we can play the Mark of the Vampire up to attack and give Huey the opportunity to trade here, getting a 2-for-1. Javier would still take 3 damage from the Enrage trigger.
And then gain some of that back from the Mark.
And Javier also looking to attack with the Menace creature because Huey would have to double block with Nest Robber and a Raptors, but Javier could then just get
he could
the
just
Nest
trade,
Robber.
trade off for the Nest Robber, right.
Right.
Take 2 down to 5. You gain 4 up to 14, and then lose 3 down to 11. Yes.
So Javier's going to be at 11 after the dust settles on this.
And
but
Huey's at 5.
Huey's at 5, and he has his 2 dinosaurs still in play, and the race is very much on here.
Yes, 7.
And it's currently favoring Jensen.
Wow, and another creature. Yeah, this Javier needs something big here.
Headstrong Brute from Jensen actually represents exactly lethal damage.
So Javier did draw a Vanquished a week, so he could use that on the Territorial Hammer Skull, and then use the 2/2 Pirate token to block the Frenzied Raptor.
Still be pretty far behind.
He would still be behind, but it does give him, you know, a few more cards he can draw to stabilize.
Okay.
A larger creature, for example, just to kind of trade with the Headstrong.
7 to 5.
I'm at 5, you're at 7, yeah.
The Storm Sculptor not looking all that great with only a token to return.
I see.
Oh, is that Sure Strike?
Oh, I think that might be a Sure Strike.
Sure Strike in hand for
it.
Jensen, and he gets to save his Hammer Skull, and that should be the death blow here for Javier Dominguez in game number 1 as he picks up his permanence. William Huey Jensen scrapping it out with a red-white aggro deck. You know, it isn't one of the color pairs that you really think of when you think of this format, but he has managed to make it work and is now up a game looking to win his draft here. So things shaping up pretty nicely here for Jensen. Just one more game away from a 3-0 in the draft.
Yeah, I think most players heading into this draft format, I think red-white aggro is kind of up there in terms of the format you want to be.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've got a lot more draft action lined up for you, but first, these messages.
Check out Ixalan Booster Draft Leagues on Magic Online. Draft anytime, play anytime. Available now. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
Grand Prix events offer great experiences for players of all skill levels. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with pro players, feature top artist signings, and host a wide range of side events. Find an upcoming Grand Prix event near you at magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in Boston, Massachusetts. It is time for the World Championship. That's right, we got the big one here. We're giving away $100,000 for first prize, and it doesn't stop there. Second prize, not too shabby at $50K.
Yeah, decent.
Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. We're happy to have you along with us as we work our way through the draft round. So this is the third and final draft round of the day. We'll be repeating this process again tomorrow, but after this is over, for you constructed fans out there, we will be moving into standard to see what our World Championship competitors have brought to the table for standard. So let's get this game underway, though. This is game number 2, William Jensen versus Javier Dominguez. And Jensen was able to win kind of a scrappy game 1, where Dominguez kind of took a swing for the fences, but it didn't quite work out for him. Game wasn't over at that point, but Jensen was able to just eke it out. And once again, a similar start here for Dominguez. He's got his fell flagship on turn 3 once again.
And no dinosaur.
Wow, no dinosaur. The Odapec Huntmaster makes your dinosaurs cost 1 less, so anything that cost 2, 3, or 4, he could have just cast there and didn't have anything.
And here we go. That synergy provided by the fell flagship. Javier Dominguez playing a 2-powered pirate, but fell flagship pumps all your pirates, so he was able to crew an attack and get William Huey Jensen to discard a card. Interesting. William Huey Jensen has a Rootbound Crag on the battlefield, I believe. So what green card could he be playing in the main or possibly sideboarded in? It looks like he started without the card, so probably brought in some green cards. I'm guessing that it's probably a Crushing Canopy, as Javier Dominguez does have multiple copies of Mark of the Vampire, which he likely wants to put on his evasive creatures.
Okay.
Oh, was that a Rowdy Crew? That was a turn 4 Rowdy Crew from William Jensen.
Yes, and he did actually hit as well.
Yeah, he discarded 2 creatures at random.
Right, so he's caught a 5/5 with Trample off of Rowdy Crew here.
Wow.
And that is going to be a problem for Dominguez, as that is a handful to deal with. He's going to need one of the unconditional removal spells that Black has to offer. A card like Contract Killing would do quite nicely here. Let's see what he's actually working with. Well, Skullduggery doesn't look that great against a 5/5 Trample, though he might be able to combine it with some blockers.
Right. But William also just has access to a ton of mana. If William also has a combat trick to answer the Skullduggery, it could lead to a a pretty gigantic blowout.
Yeah, pretty lucky there for Jensen. You draw 3 cards and then discard 2 at random from your hand. And if they share a card type, yeah, and it's the main type, by the way, like creature, land, that kind of thing, then you can get 2+1/+1 counters on it as well.
Yeah, and if you notice, William Hugh Jensen has a Territorial Hammer Skull, but opted not to give it haste because Javier Dominguez has access to being able to block with the Fell Flagship.
Yeah, that has been really annoying for that Hammer Skull. You know, when you draft that card highly, you think, well, it's just going to do what it does. It's hard to interact with, but there are a few, not that many, but a few vehicles in the format that actually do a fine job of it.
So Javier drew a nice card to kind of help if we end up kind of in a racing situation. I believe he drew a Water Trap Weaver here, which you could use to lock down the Rowdy Crew for a turn.
Yeah, I
try
do,
to race.
I do see one in his hand as well.
And he does have Tempest Caller, which would be able to allow him to get in for the final few points of damage as well. Very, very swingy creature. So Javier has at least one good attack.
Storm Sculptor.
Okay, and he's also opting to attack with the Fell Flagship here. All right, off to the races. I mean, when you have a Tempest Caller in hand, this is kind of the game plan you should try to employ. Wow, and Huey just blocking. Oh, of course, the discard effect of the Fell Flagship.
That's right, and he figures that it's not going to do much anyway at this point, the Huntmaster, so he's going to go ahead and block.
Looks like this is going to be pretty close.
And now he's going to go back into the Huey mode there, hands on head. Oh no, fingertips on forehead. We know he's really thinking hard now. We're getting the full range.
That's
here.
the second stage.
That's right. Unfortunately for Dominguez, third stage is combat. And Huey expediently moves to that. Gets in for a hit for 5, it looks like, and then passes the turn back to Javier. And this is a big turn for Javier.
Yep.
This one's still very much up in the air between the two players. Neither of them have made a huge play to get them ahead. You know, Jensen with the Rowdy Crew and actually hitting on it was a nice
And the Rowdy Crew has Trample, right?
Oh yeah.
I believe. And Huey does have a Sure Strike in hand.
Ooh, that's a lot of damage.
And Javier's already down to 9 life, so this is going to be super close. Javier does not have lethal here, not yet.
Okay, so Jensen had kept a mountain in his hand. He knew he could take the damage to drop down to 11, but he didn't want to discard a real spell.
Wow, Javier drew a very timely card here.
What did he find?
Drew a Run Aground,
oh, boy.
Which is the perfect card in this situation. It's very possible that Huey goes for the win this turn, or uses the Sure Strike to get through a lot of damage.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Runner Aground is going to do a lot of work.
That chance just reduced a lot because Dominguez just passed the turn back to Jensen, and that will not go unnoticed.
Yeah, he's got to be thinking, uh-oh, this is going to be really rough. I had a game plan. I just wanted you to play a big creature.
Yeah, honestly, just tap out. Yeah.
just.
Now, it doesn't look like it's changing Jensen's plan that much, but he will certainly be keeping cards like Run Aground in his head as we go to damage. For now, though, he just says, well, how about we just attack for lethal and let you figure it out?
Yeah, Javier could block the Menacing Brute and take 7. So that would put him down to 2.
I think the Brute is in, I think the Rowdy Crew's a pirate.
Oh, Rowdy
right?
Crew's a pirate, of course.
Yeah, so the Headstrong Brute does have
It
menace.
does it all.
Yeah, well, except for blocking. So the Headstrong Brute,
right
there it is. Menace as long as you control another pirate.
So he can, I guess, chump block the Territorial Hammer Skull.
Yes.
And kind of force the issue.
Go to 1 would be the idea,
right.
but oh, that feels bad.
I mean, he's also got a Skullduggery, so he could just opt to block, go for Skullduggery, and then just pass.
And still have Run Aground available.
Yeah.
Last one here, -1.
Probably the Menace creature. Yeah.
Right, so he's going to shrink down.
So now Huey has to decide.
Brute. And so that's 5, 6, 7, he could still go for lethal.
He'd go for the win here.
Now the problem is that if he does go for the win on the Rowdy crew and it gets bounced, he won't be able to replay it. But if he will be able to replay it if he goes on the Headstrong Brute.
Well, the runner ground actually puts it on top of your library.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, so I think he would likely target the Menacing Brute here.
The Headstrong.
Sorry, the Headstrong Brute with Menace, just to kind of distribute.
Looks
the
like he's
damage.
going for it.
Yep.
He still gets to get in for 5 here.
Yep. No matter what, and I imagine Javier is going to bounce the Rowdy crew.
That would.
Or do you want him to draw cards? Because he could potentially draw into things that could get him back. So Javier has a decision here.
Yeah, and there is a damage difference here as well.
I believe it's actually both 5.
Oh, you know, you're right.
Yeah.
Because of the skullduggery?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's 5 damage on both sides.
So
which one does he want to bounce?
It's just which one is he? I mean,
Just have 5.
the Rowdy crew does leave you up a card, right? You draw 3, discard 2.
Yeah. And
So,
but he is afraid of the trample. The fact that it has trample is also
yes, that is a
very
big
scary.
deal too. That is a very big deal. Well, as it stands, though, Jensen still gets in for a solid hit of 5 damage. Dominguez, though, that was a big sequence from him. 2 instants on that combat step.
This is, I think, if Javier has a way to crew the flagship, that's lethal, right? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He just needs to play a 3-power creature to crew the flagship.
So you mean he needs to play a card that can crew the flagship that's not going to attack this turn?
Right.
Yep. He can certainly crew it.
So
with
he's
his
got a
board.
Storm Sculptor. He can actually play the Storm Sculptor with the bounce trigger on the stack, crew the flagship, and then return to Storm Sculptor to hand, and that's 11 damage exactly.
That's exactly what he's going to do. Trigger up, do it, and he saw this exact line of play. Nice read, Paul.
And just hope you have nothing.
Yes. And he is certainly in that mode.
All right, that's 11.
And he's just going to jam. And Jensen says, yep, that's plenty.
Wow.
Woo!
Well played. That run aground, very timely.
Yeah, the run aground plus the skullduggery was really important there. It got a creature off the battlefield and then got an additional one off the battlefield. And that was all the time that Dominguez needed. And he saw that play with the Storm Sculptor. So good stuff from Javier there to even things up. And that means, oh yeah, we get a game 3.
Game 3.
Not bad, not bad. You can see, take a look down the line a little bit as well at our other feature match players right now as they continue their match. I see Donald Smith is playing against Josh Utter-Layton there. And that looks like Seth Manfield down at the end against Christian Calcano. I see Kelvin Chu, but he looks like he's signing a match slip.
How many swashbucklings do you think Christian, like looking at his face, like how many swashbucklings has he cast so far?
Oh, he's good for a good 9 at this point. Approaching double-digit swashbucklings. Oh, let's take a look right now.
Oh, there's one on the board.
Hey,
how about that?
Adding to the swash count. This is Seth Manfield. Oh, no, he's at 2? No, he's at 14. We were still getting live totals updated.
2 aggressive decks meeting in the finals here.
What is going on with that middle pile of cards for Calcano? I see a freebooter with swashbuckling, but what's the card under it?
That looks
Is
like
it a
it might be a
Pious
Pious
Interdiction?
Yeah, it looks like a Pious Intervention.
Interdiction, yeah.
So Interdiction.
So that looks like a solid little 2-for-1 from Seth there.
Yeah.
Or is that actually what's under the freebooter?
That's under the freebooter. I believe the freebooter has taken the removal spell, so not a 2-for-1.
Oh, other way around.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to hit with the
Oh, absolutely.
with the freebooter.
Anytime you hit anything with that card, you just feel like you got away with something.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I think Christian would be pretty happy just to trade the pirate here for the Sky Terror. Oh, wait, is it? That's a Skullduggery. Which is not actually going to get rid of both of the creatures, but it will save his own. Yeah. Oh, no. The Kitetail Freebooter, of course, pumped the pirate as well. It is a pirate.
Yeah, the
Nice.
freebooter's a pirate, so
Yeah, yeah,
it was actually a 3-3 at the time and a 2-for-1 back in Calcano's direction. He even has a follow-up play. Telenolly's Knight and passes the turn, and, well, Pterodon Knight, not really what Seth wanted here. It's all by itself, though I suppose he could do worse.
Christian probably just going to attack with the 2 creatures on the bottom side.
I mean, that's fine.
And Is Seth happy to just kind of trade? Well, he's probably not going to be happy with the trade, but he might not have a choice here, given how far behind he is on board.
Yeah, he's just forced to do so.
That's swashbuckling.
Yeah, taking
Large
3,
game.
down to 8.
He just needs a 3-4 flyer.
And is that a Queen's Bay Soldier there for Calcano? What is
Yeah,
that?
and that's a Sunrise Seeker out of Seth Manfield, which is going to get the job done, at least in terms of keeping the ground creatures at bay.
Well, he's still taking hits in the air from the freebooter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, was that another swashbuckling? 2-turn clock?
Uh-oh.
So this is interesting, right? So Seth Manfield could have Legion's Judgment, and if he has a Legion's Judgment, you want to wait. But if he draws Unfriendly Fire, you want to play the swashbuckling on the freebooter now.
To protect it.
But Christian Calcano is opting to, of course, distribute here.
Force a chump.
He could
Oh,
all.
actually it does not force a chump, does it?
Yeah, he could have also attacked with the Knight.
Yes. He could have put Seth to 1 and lost the knight here.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
We've seen Skullduggery do some pretty nasty things so far.
Oh, yeah. For 1 mana, too. It's just a beating. Manfield's down to 1, facing 3 lethal threats with just 1 blocker. Calcano going to fall down to 15.
Does he have a flyer here?
No,
Nope.
not yet.
I think this might just be the game here.
Yeah, even Lightning Strike doesn't get him out of this mess, does it?
Is that another swashbuckling? I just assume it's a swashbuckling because he has 4 in his deck.
Yeah, but this time it was. And that's going to do it.
So many
Christian
buckles.
Calcano.
Too many buckles.
Wow, he has really ran the tables.
Was that 3-0?
That was 3-0 for Calc.
Wow.
Yep, Christian Calcano is 3-0,
Sadly.
winning his draft pod. And we're going to see who wins this
Yeah,
draft
yeah,
pod
absolutely.
here based on this game. Javier Dominguez or William Huey Jensen get to start things over again for game 3. Oh, there's a smile at a Javier. Maybe he's finding his groove here.
He got one back,
He
so
just
he's
needed to
looking
get that
happy.
win, you know. Now, is he going to see a Wanted Scoundrels here? Because we were taking a look at the deck list. No, that's a Queen's Bay Soldier. He's got 3 somehow.
Yeah, 3 Wanted Scoundrels in his deck.
Yet
but
he
has
is
only
yet
played
to
one.
play one on turn 2.
Right.
Both games he had no 2-drop, and turn 3 fell flagship, but this time he does have a 2, and he even has a 3-drop there. Water Trap Weaver's going to keep the Hammer Skull at bay for a turn, and Javier is kind of taking the initiative away from Jensen here.
So, again, you know, we kind of touched on the aggressive nature of the format. Look at what these players have just been trying to do. It's like, there's not a lot of blocking. All I want to do is play my creatures and get you to 0 before you get me to 0. It's just been a racing situation the entire time. Cards like Territorial Hammer Skull, Tillinolly's Knight, all reward you for attack.
This is kind of interesting. Brazen
Ooh.
Buccaneers has revealed Bonded Horncrest, and it looks like Jensen doesn't want it.
Wow.
It's a powerful card.
Yeah. But Jensen does have some powerful 5-mana cards in his hand, so I think he values just being able to find a land instead of just playing the Bonded Horncrest.
Okay. In the meantime, he's left the Brazen Buccaneers back. They're never happy when they don't get to attack, but with 2 2/2s on the other side of the battlefield, he's kind of forcing Dominguez to come up with something, and he doesn't
no
have
land.
anything. So no damage this turn.
No land and no Skullduggery.
Yeah. Okay, this is starting to get interesting, and boom, there's a
He
land
found a
off
land.
the top for Jensen.
Off to the races.
Yeah, here we go.
15, 18.
Both creatures get in, no blocks, and there's that 5-mana spell you mentioned. Glorifier of Dusk from Jensen.
Oh, and
He just
no
wants to start
land.
slamming the big stuff. Oh no, this one's starting to come apart quickly here for Javier Dominguez. He has a nice start. This was a very good start, but 2 land drop misses in a row here against an aggressive Jensen
Yeah.
could be very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, one note about this format, it is incredibly punishing if you ever miss a beat. We saw what happened to Redo. Great 2-drop, great 3-drop, took a turn off, and then he was dead.
And then dead. Yeah, instantly dead. Dominguez does not control another pirate at the moment, so he can't even activate his Fathom Fleet Captain. It does have Menace, so it's going to be able to get through the Glorifier, but no bueno there for Javier Dominguez, as these land drops have really started to add up, and now Jensen's going to start narrowing his field of thought down to how can I lose,
Right.
what could go wrong here, rather than big picture game plan, because as we can see, his primary game plan is very much intact. He's just going to keep on attacking.
Yeah, and he's opting not to even give his Glorifier of Dusk evasion, it looks like. Oh, and
It's a Siren's Ruse here
post,
from Dominguez, though. He waited till after attacks,
right.
so this kind of gets...
So it's still attacking, so it still gets in for the damage, right?
Yeah, it will lock down the Glorifier of Dusk.
Javier's like, if you have anything, I'm dead.
Yeah.
All right, you had something.
And
And
it was
also, I'm dead.
And it was Sure Strike, and things are looking very bad
Yeah.
for Dominguez. That Glorifier Dusk will stay tapped
Oh, and
down,
still no land.
but another missed land here for Dominguez, and all of a sudden this one...
But he gets to draw cards.
Yeah. And of course he finds 2 lands, but that's going to do it. William Huey Jensen wins his first draft pod and starts this thing out 3-0 coming off of the limited portion. And that means that we're going to be working our way towards standard now, of course, which is where the players have put in a ton of time and effort as well, because we are playing 4 rounds of standard today. We'll be doing that again tomorrow, as well as 3 rounds of booster draft as well. What stood out to you, Paul, from the limited portion?
Again, the name of the game in this format is aggression. All the decks that we've seen that were having success were the aggressive decks. Seth Manfield against Christian Calcano, red-white aggro against black-red swashbuckling theme deck. We had William Huey Jensen on red-white aggro, 3-0 against blue-black pirates, but it was an aggressively slanted pirate deck. So
That's right. So lots of aggressiveness. We'll see if that translates over to standard. We're going to be moving in that direction. But first, these messages.